but you'll probably hear a couple Flyer Howies, even if it's at the concession stand.
I wonder if there were any EAGLES chants breaking out at the NovaCare complex yesterday, because yesterday was the first day of voluntary workouts around the National Football League. And I did see several reports on teams that had guys show up even after statements were put forth through the NFLPA that players are going to not show up for voluntary workouts. Virtually, yes. If there's going to be computer gatherings, they'll be there for that. But actually show up at facilities around the National Football League, not happening, including the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I was looking all day for a report as to how many people. I thought maybe one of the intrepid reporters, one of your guys, would be down there with either a camera or just.
Well, we can't be down there. We're barred from the facility, COVID protocols. So
I understand. Is there an entrance and an exit to a driveway?
There is an exit and an entrance, but there is a gate. There is a security gate. So you got to look through tinted windows, which is not the easiest thing to do. Or certain guys, you know what cars they drive.
Right.
God bless you if you want to go do that. But
that's the links that I was wondering if someone would go to. Yeah. It looks like that's not the case. I'm not knocking or mocking or questioning anybody, but
you know
when they're doing EAGLES Eagles chants at Phillies games, I thought it might merit an Eagle beat reporter down there with a checklist. All right, this guy showed up, it didn't show up. We got 7 guys who showed up. I just thought it was a possibility.
Well, you know why? It's, to be honest, April 19th, which was yesterday, that's the start of phase 1 of NFL OTAs. It's not that important. There's no on-field work. There's no work with the coaches. It basically is just using the facility to keep in shape and work out with the strength and conditioning staff. So, A, it's not that important. But B, there is something to Nick Sirianni hosting his first virtual meeting with the whole team. That part did happen yesterday, was able to confirm that. That part's important. The working out part, interesting. I spent too much of my life, Jody, trying to track down people at the NFLPA to figure out what the heck is going on here, because they announced statements that were not showing up. Certain players show up to work out. And, they're trying to play kind of what I said with the NBA and load management. They're trying to play both sides of the fence. So there are players in this league, and you mentioned yesterday the Green Bay Packers are most noted for this. They have about $5 million in total tied to workout bonuses because nobody wants to come to Green Bay in the offseason. They all want to go to Florida and Texas, California, as everybody does. So they put these clauses in the contracts to get players to show up in the offseason. Now, what the NFLPA has done and said, okay, it's money, everything's about money, as you know, Jody. If you guys have that in your contract, go ahead, show up. But they've made it very clear to the agents in the future, please do not negotiate these contracts, because they spend a lot of time negotiating the CBA to put this voluntary tag so the veteran players don't have to show up. So the NFLPA wants those workout bonuses to go away completely. But, they're trying to fight this fight, and they already exist. So it's a difficult fight.
Right. But here's where they can say whatever they want. They can work with the agents who are doing their work with the players. Let's try and eliminate. Let's not have a reason. Let's try and get voluntary to mean voluntary. And the only way we could do that is get workout bonuses taken out of contract. You don't think the teams recognize that and realize that and will now use that in negotiations? Here's the reason why workout bonuses are, I think, something that players and agents should want. It's basically guaranteed. All you have to do is show up. If you show up, you get that money. That's almost as good as a signing bonus. It's got a little codicil attention. Yeah, you actually have to show up. You don't have to be good. You don't have to go crazy. All you got to do is show up and you get that check. If not, the teams will say, all right, we'll take the workout bonuses out, but we'll just add it into your regular salary for the season. Oh, but if you get cut, you don't get that money. The workout bonus, you get it as soon as you show up. You go through camp, you may or may not make the team. You've already cashed that check. You got that in your back pocket. If it's just tied into your salary for the season, oh, shoot, you didn't make the team. You don't actually get that money. Yeah, I can tell you how the negotiations are going to go. The agents are going to say, we want it as a signing bonus. Teams say, we're going to give it to you in salary. We want it as a signing bonus. We're going to give it to you in salary. All right, let's meet in the middle, make it a workout bonus. Oh, we can't do that because the union said we can't. Well, we moved. If I'm the owners, we tried. We tried to find a middle ground to get your guy more money. Well, but you're turning that down, so you're only giving us one option. We have to give you that much more than a signing bonus.
I will say, Jody, we're not talking about big numbers at all. We're talking about, and by the way, especially if you're a young player, you have a minimum contract. I'm not trying to downplay it, but for somebody like Aaron Rodgers, it's not meaningful. You're talking about Green Bay, as I mentioned. They pay $5 million in workout bonuses, by far the most. Even when you look at the Packers, when you compare it to a salary cap that's well over 180 million, will be over probably 220 million when we get back to normal. It's not a lot of money. That's number one. The Eagles, by the way, under 100,000 workout bonuses. That's it. Right. So we're not talking about a lot of money. That's the first part of it. The second part is, and I think the far bigger issue is when you're talking about voluntary work, and I've mentioned this before on the show, I think last week, who it affects is the bottom of the roster veterans. And if those guys don't show up, forget about workouts. I'm talking about on-field stuff when you have on-field stuff. If those guys don't show up, the rookies are contractually obligated to show up for their first camp. They can catch the coaching staff's eye. Right. And they say, so-and-so's not here, out of sight, out of mind. So I think that is the far bigger issue for the union than the actual money, because the money is a drop in the bucket. And I put that, anybody who wants to look at it can go to my Twitter at JF McMullen. The list is there from Spot Track that does all the contract work. They have all the teams and what they have for workout bonuses. It's not a lot of money, Jody.
It isn't. But when you add it all together and look at a team,
no, it's a lot of money for us.
Individuals, and I'm not you and I who do this show for $6.25 a show. That's a huge amount of money. Yeah, but even for the individual players, Aaron Rodgers is making tens of millions of dollars. So his $500,000 signing bonus, still $500,000 is a lot of money to anybody. But you're right. It all depends on the view you take from it, whether it is a lot of money, a goodly amount of money, a big amount of money, depending on how you look at it.
Nobody's turning down money. So that part I agree with you. But I will say, I don't think money is the biggest problem in trying to get these work to be truly voluntary. I don't even think that's close to the biggest problem. I think the biggest problem is an unsolvable one, because you're trying to serve two masters. You're trying to get veteran players more jobs, and you're trying to get the rookies in the league and in the union to where they'll be veterans and the whole cycle starts again. So I don't know how you solve that, because teams want cost-effective young players, just not only because it's cheaper, but because also that's the best way to build your team. And that's a difficult hurdle for the union.
Right. John wasn't happy when I mentioned that one Eagle reporter might have been down there keeping track of guys who showed up for the first voluntary workout.
No, if they want to, God bless.
Right. I just thought there might be one. I'll ask you about two other people who may have taken notice of how many people were actually in the facility yesterday, and that would be the general manager, Howie Roseman, who will have major implications on who does or doesn't make the roster when we get to the first game of the regular season, and Jeff Lurie, who we've bandied about here for the last several weeks during Birds 365 as to his level of involvement with the football team. Did those two guys take notice? I won't go so far as to say take attendance, but at least be on top of things enough to notice who did or didn't show. Has the who really wants it parade actually started down at Eagle Land these days?
I don't think so because because they did have the virtual meetings. Everybody's got to be involved there, so it's pretty easy to take attendance. You don't have to leave your office. But number two, they're knee deep in draft. I mean, this is the time where you're putting together your board, you're calling teams, you're sending out feelers, whether you want to move up or move down. So they are knee deep, and unfortunately, when I say they, Jeffrey Lurie as well, most likely, is knee deep in draft prep to be a little bit too concerned on whether Aaron Cepas is lifting some weights down at the tent outside because of the COVID protocols at the NovaCare complex.
How much action was going on in that tent? I guess we'll never really know from yesterday. All right.
Well, you can only, I can say, Jody, you can only have 20 players in the facility at a time.
20 is the max number at any time?
Yeah. So you can do it in shifts. There can be more, but, they still have these stringent protocols in place.
If they do it in shifts, do you have to tag your replacement in? Or is it just a virtual tag? Is it a fist bump? How do you know when you've gotten down under 20 and someone else can join the tent?
It's a good question.
I've never been there. I have to take my guesstimates with guys like you. All right, let's get to the draft itself. Yes, you mentioned everyone is just inundated with draft minutia, getting the board ready, double check, going over scouting reports, and the much fun rumor central where teams are potentially moving up and down. Other than the top 3 picks, which we're pretty sure the top 3 picks are all going to be quarterbacks. We think we know who number 1's going to be. We're damn sure. We're pretty sure who number 2 is going to be. And number 3 is debatable, but it is going to be a quarterback. At Atlanta, number 4, that's where the conversation really begins. Will they make the pick or will they trade back? Once you get a couple picks into that, after that, you have the will they trade back or will they trade up conversation. And right now, rumors out there that the Eagles could be doing either one, that there are 3 options in play here. They can stay and make their pick at 12. They were at 6. They move back. They sit at 12. They take the player that they like best at number 12. Or some players that they do like go before they can have their card on the clock. They may or may not talk about trading up, and if they don't achieve that, then they could potentially trade back. Or they could have those conversations about trading up after they traded back to get a specific player, and they could put together a package to move up a handful of picks. All those things are in rumor central right now. I don't know if anyone has more legs than the other. I would guess staying put at 12 is the most probable one. What do you think the chances are that the Eagles move one way or the other? Which is more likely?
Well, I'm hoping, Jody, they stay put for 2 reasons. One, I'm tired of hearing silly season. They might move up. They might move down. And Albert Breer, who I have a ton of respect for, Sports Illustrated, he's the one who put that in his Monday morning quarterback. Oh, the Eagles are talking about moving up, jumping ahead of the Giants and the Cowboys. Oh, but they could also move down. Well, thanks, Albert. We know that. They can move up. They can move down. They can stay put. We got a great contest coming up if they stay put at number 12. So people stay tuned for that. They'll be able to win some nice Eagles gear. But nonetheless, that's where we are. That's why I got Blake on the show today to talk about this type of thing. That's why I said that's what the Eagles are doing, Jody. They're not doing virtual attendance calls. They're calling other teams and saying, hey, can we get up to this spot, doing our groundwork for that kind of stuff? Do we want to jump ahead of the Giants and Cowboys to get a cornerback? Do we want to fall down to get an edge player, which I know you will hate, a Kwity Paye type, to sort of match up value with a position in the draft that we think is more important? That's all the kind of work that's going on right now. And hopefully the Eagles have this solved before draft night, because that's been one of the issues. You should have all this planned out. If you want to go up, go up. I mentioned Gil Brandt, though, Jody, real quick. He did his conference call yesterday, his pre-draft conference call. And you know Gil's been around for a long, long time. He mentioned a war at one point. I had to say to myself, what war is he talking about? Because Gil has been around that long.
Oh, yeah.
To talk about virtually any war since World War II. But, I'm old myself, so I can make age jokes. Nonetheless, he said, you can find, you're going to hate this too, you can find a cornerback anywhere. Couple offensive linemen go down, try to plug a guard in. That happened to the Eagles last season.
Yeah.
And it ain't easy. The one thing I say about Jonathan Gannon and his history, you could look with the Colts last year, was Xavier Rhodes. He got off the scrap heap in Minnesota, was once a great corner, but was really bad his final season with the Vikings. TJ Carey, still a free agent. We've mentioned him about maybe the Eagles will have some interest. In other words, he wasn't working with Deion Sanders, and he got these guys up to speed. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Eagles' philosophy is, because they will be busting a trend if they go away from certain directions. And guess what, Jody? They've already busted one trend, because they've gone away from this historic quarterback class. Historic. 3 different people, 4 if you had Jody McDonald, have told me that. And the Eagles are saying, oh, we value this position more than any other. Well, guess what? If you really believe 2021 is a historic quarterback class, that means 2022 isn't going to be, because you don't have historic. So my point is, if you believe in that position so much, and you really believe, as 3 different NFL evaluators have told me in the past week, that this is one of the best quarterback classes of all time, isn't this the time to pounce? But the Eagles already fell back.
Right.
Doesn't make sense to me.
They gave you their scouting report on this class. They don't think it's as historic as Gil Brandt does or Jody McDonald does. They just can't, because why would you trade from 6 to 12 if you believe that? Either you'd stay and use a selection at 6 on one of those guys, or you would hold on to it with dear life, not be pushed out of it by the Miami Dolphins, who said, hey, here's the trade we'll offer you, but you got to do it now, because we've got another deal in place and we can't pull the trigger on that until we put this one in place. They would have said no. They would have said, no, we'll stay right here at 6. There's a chance one of these 5 great quarterbacks is going to come down to us. It's a historic class. No, here's what we need. More than the 1 first-round draft pick that they want, they should have gotten 2. If they really valued it as much as some other people do, yours truly being one of them, I think it is a historically good quarterback class. The Eagles are not going to get one. I don't think there's any way any of those 5 come down to number 12, but it would be really interesting if one of them did fall all the way down to 12. That's when you may see the Eagles move back. They may actually say, yeah, if we don't, we pass on this guy, it's going to look bad. We'll never hear the end of it from Jody McDonald and Eagle Nation. We got to get the hell out of 12, get into a position where all the quarterbacks are off the board. The Eagles already took their stance. They're not going quarterback this year. It's going to be Jalen Hurts by hook, crook, or however they need to make it happen. They're not going to take a quarterback in this draft until, I don't think it's going to be till day 3. I don't think they're even going to do it at the end of somewhere in the 3rd round with the multiple 3rd round picks they have, because they took enough flack for taking Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round. I think they're going to wait all the way till day 3, round 4 or later, before they select a quarterback in this upcoming draft.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the point I bring that up, though, Jody, is they've already busted a trend. So if they busted one trend, which is quarterback, who's to say they can't bust another trend? The other side of that fence is people like Gil Brandt saying you can find cornerbacks later in the draft. Now, what an Eagles fan will tell you is we haven't had corners for years. We can't get Sidney Jones to play up. We can't get Rasul Douglas. Well, maybe that's where you can criticize Jim Schwartz and the old coaching staff, because other teams, Darius Williams, you look at with the Rams, had a spectacular year. Who the hell was he? He was picked up on waivers from Baltimore. You can find quarterback. I just mentioned what Gannon was able to do in Indianapolis. You can find cornerbacks. You saw firsthand, Eagles fans, if attrition happens on the offensive line, you're in trouble. You're in deep, deep, deep trouble. So that's what Gilbrandt said. And he wasn't talking about the Eagles, by the way, Jody. He was talking about a completely different team. He said, you can find cornerbacks, even undrafted cornerbacks. You can't find offensive linemen. So if one's there, you better take them.
And the scary thing about it is the Eagles kept Jeff Stoutland. They overturned their entire coaching staff. Stoutland basically the only holdover, and I thought they were well on point to do just that, because I think he is an outstanding offensive line coach. It could have been even worse. Even with the drop-off, with all the Eagle injuries that they had on their offensive line last year and the plug-and-play that they had to do with the guys they had on their roster, I think Stoutland kept it from actually being worse. And it wasn't good. We saw how much Carson Wentz got hit this past year and plays breaking down and the like. It could have been even worse if they didn't have Stoutland here, so they're lucky to still have Stoutland in the house. But John, I'm hoping the trend is broken. And not that I disagree with the overall philosophy. It does make a lot of sense. I'm looking at the vacuum it is this year. You're rolling the dice that your two big guys on your right-hand side are coming back. They're going to be healthy, and they're going to stay healthy. And that might be the toughest part of the equation, actually get down. Stay healthy. I think you have to do that. If you're going to use a first-round draft pick on a player who may not ever get on the field, if you're going to take them to be a right tackle or a right guard, I'm not sure that I could do that if I were the Philadelphia Eagles this year. Knowing the importance of the offensive line, knowing their history of putting an importance on the offensive line, I still can't do that this year with this team.
Hey, I understand it. I mean, that's the one beauty of this draft. If you want to look at the optimistic side, again, you can put up the dartboard, you can throw the dart, no matter where it lands, you're going to find a need for this team. Yes, people will say if guys stay healthy, if guys stay healthy on the offensive line, that's not a significant need. Yeah, not immediately, but you got age and injury history there. Same thing on the defensive line. Brandon Graham's still playing at a high level. Guy's going to be 33. So you have to start thinking about it. I mean, the Eagles have said this is about 2022. It's not about 2021 by their actions. So they're not expected to be a contender. So you have to think about 2022 as well, Jody. And that's why this draft, in a lot of ways, is kind of easy for the Eagles to take the best player. They think who the best player is because they have so many needs on this team. Even things that don't look like immediate needs are going to be significant needs right around the corner because of the age and the injury history of this team.
All right. You talked about the Eagles not necessarily being as worried about 2021 as they are 2022, 23, 24, the future years coming down the road. To help hammer that point home, I did see this last night. A buddy of mine sends out wagering lines that are just being posted as soon as they're put up.
I saw this.
Bet Online AG put out the under-overs for the upcoming season. Now, remember full well that we're talking about 17 games for each National Football League team, not 16. It's been 16 for a long time now. They are finally advancing it to 17 games. So when you hear some of these numbers, don't set your mind to out of 16 games. It's out of 17 games.
Which makes it worse, by the way.
Right. The Philadelphia Eagle over-under number for this upcoming season is 6.5. 6.5 wins in a 17-game season. That's not good, folks. How bad is it? Do you know how many teams are actually below 6.5 for this upcoming season? You got the Jaguars at 6. You got, well, first of all, Cincinnati, the team they tied with last year, funny enough, also at 6.5. There are two teams that are at 6.5, the Eagles and the Bengals, and they finished up with the exact same record after they tied each other last year at 11-1. The Bengals are at 6.5, same as the Eagles. The Jags at 6, the Jets at 6, the Lions at 5.5, and the Texans, with the questions as to whether Deshaun Watson will be able to play, at 4.5. That's it. There's only 4 teams in the NFL that have lower over-under numbers coming into the season than the Philadelphia Eagles. They are tied for supposedly the 5th worst team for the 2021 season. How much eggs should they be scraping off their face at this time?
Well, Vegas and the people that do odds see what we see, and they see the same thing. The Eagles are about 2022. They're not about 2021. But when I tweeted that out because I got the same information, same email, Jody, and I said the same thing. If you have a crystal ball, which none of us do have, if Lane Johnson, Brandon Brooks, we just talked about the offensive line, Jason Kelsey, if they're out there for 16 games, Eagles are going to go over. You can win some money. The question is, can those guys stand up? Can they stay healthy? Remember last year, Bet Online also put in there, the over-under was 10 in 16 games, and they ended up at 4. So,
ouch.
That plays into it as well, how disappointing this team was. And that's where we are. And they see what we see, and that the Eagles seem to be about 2022 more than 2021.
And if you're inquisitive, just to give you the quick numbers on the rest of the division, the Dallas Cowboys, with Dak Prescott coming back, are the top over-under team at 9.5. The division champions, Washington football team, 8.5. And the overly aggressive teams in free agency, the New York Football Giants at 7. So Cowboys 9.5, Washington 8.5, Giants 7, Eagles 6.5. They come into the season as the lowest ranked team for wins, as per at least one Vegas betting outlet. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We are Birds 365. When we come back, we'll get another M involved. I was going to say JM, but I believe Jeff spells his name with a G, right?
Yeah, GM.
We almost had triple JM working for us, but no, we've got Jeff with a G, Mosher, joining us next here on Birds 365. Stick around.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
The middle.
Did you hear that sound? Yeah, of that iron shot? If you want to talk about a solid golf shot, that's what it sounds like.
There are very few sounds of purity.
That's as pure as it gets.
I've never heard it before.
Yeah.
Look, you and me both, brother.
Never heard it before. Never.
You and me both at that point. Jeez.
The Middle with Eitan Shander, Barrett Brooks, and Harry Mays. Weekdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting is now the CSB Media Arts Center, training in all that is media, including the nation's most successful broadcast training program with professional media experts whose entire mission is to get you career ready. In just 8 or 16 weeks, train on-site and online at our local campus.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.